Today, we get to talk to Steve Cisneros from the Phantom Projects Theater in La Habra, California, about their current running show, James and the Giant Peach, and their upcoming show, Be More Cool. Steve, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Listen, man, I'm excited to talk to you. I get to see James next week, and then looking forward to Be More Cool. Phantom Projects has done their relaunch recently. So fill us in what's going on over at Phantom because you've got some really good stuff coming out, and you're also working with La Mirada.
Yes, we have a ton. In fact, today alone is the first day of performances for James the Giant Peach. We, of course, have a huge focus on arts education. So it's our first of nine, I believe, field trip performances. We're busing in over 1,000 elementary and middle school students come watch the show. But today is also the opening of our Charlotte's Web in school tour. So we've got a cast of 7 out in LA doing 2 shows today. And they have 6 shows this week of that performance at different schools. So it's a busy week for us. And then Be More Chill actually is the name, which is the name of the show we're working on that started rehearsals last night. And we have an incredible cast lined up for that. So we're just nonstop. And then the Wiz auditions in about a month, Susical auditions in about a month. So it is nonstop over here, but I couldn't be happier about it.
Listen, I'm thrilled for you guys. I finally got to see a show at Phantom, and it was such a great performance. When you get the kind of reaction from the audience coming in to your theater, whether it's for a youth performance or it's for a show dedicated to children or more of an adult show,
Yeah.
how exciting is that to see the revitalization of live theater in Orange County?
I've been doing this for almost 30 years with Phantom. I started this company and even being involved in theater as a kid before that, and it never gets old. I mean, it just never gets old. And I think I tense up with every performance, just hoping that laugh comes at the right time or hoping that applause is as strong as I feel like the cast deserves. And I feel like every performance is as if it's my first show I've ever done, which to me is how I know I'm in the right field because I still get that excited about every single show. Even right now, watching all the students get autographs and take photos with the performers. If someone was recording me, you'd probably see me with a giant smile on my face, just observing all that, and it does not get old. And I have to miss the 12:30 show today for some of the work stuff I have to do, and I hate missing anything because this is all my baby, and I just like to see every step that baby takes. Even if it's almost 30 years old now, it never gets old for me. And I love even the energy of the performers, when it's either a performer who's done many shows with us, I get so excited they want to come back, or when it's a new performer who's enjoying their time with us, but every angle of it, it just gives me so much energy and makes up for the lack of sleep that you get in theater. So
Right, because it's not like it's a 2 o'clock performance every day.
exactly, exactly. Some are very early, like the Charlotte's Web tour, which I don't go on anymore because there's so many shows we do. But some of those call times are 6 o'clock in the morning out in LA, and so if you're rehearsing the night before, you're getting up for that. It's a very short turnaround. So thankfully, we've been so busy, we've been able to hire staff and send people out with different shows, so I don't have to be at everything. And I'm very thankful for the team we have here. They're top notch. But yeah, it's no longer a typical theater schedule with our arts education elements mixed in.
Well, the first show I saw with you guys was The Marvelous Wonderettes, a total tribute to the 50s and 60s, doo-wop styling, just a lot of fun. I know
Yeah.
the matinee was more sold out because of people of a certain age would tend to want to come to the matinee because, like myself, I'm an early riser. I've been an old man my entire life. Like my dad used to be like, "Why are you up at 4 in the morning?" I was like, "That's just who I am, and I'm still that guy all these years later." You know, so
That's hilarious.
when you get a show like The Marvelous Wonderettes, which is, I think you said it's been running 25 years total,
It's
from its
been around for a
inception.
long time. Yeah.
What's it
Yeah,
what's
it's
it
been
like
around for
to
a
have
long
that
time.
reaction?
It's great because, one of my goals as the person who selects the shows we do is to find shows, that can appeal to different demographics, So like Marvelous Wonderettes, the audience for that show will be the complete opposite target demo for Be More Chill. Be More Chill is going to be that older high school, younger college years. Those are the ones who obsess over that show. You did not see many of them at the Marvelous Wonderettes. And the ones you did see actually enjoyed it. They weren't sure what to expect. But I'm always trying to find shows that will speak to many different demos so they can find a reason to come back and, maybe get to a point where even if they don't know the show, they know the venue and they trust the venue. And so to me, that's my ultimate goal, is to be able to do shows that aren't as well known, but that people will say, you know what, I'm looking for something to do this weekend. Let's see what's happening at Phantom, because we know whatever's going to be there is going to be a great show. And, and that's not an easy, we're not there yet, because we definitely, Marvelous Wonder S, you mentioned, wasn't sold out, which is our first show in over a year that was not a total sellout run where every ticket didn't sell. And even though it show's been around for a long time, it is not like a Little Shop of Horrors or Steel Magnolias or Cat in the Hat, where everyone knows what it is based on the title alone. Wonderettes was sort of an educational aspect for us, having to talk about the show more and what was in there. And I think with that, the show did not sell as strongly. We were still about 80%, which is great. But I want us 100% for everything we do, so. Yeah.
But it was, I mean, you had an incredible cast. Every girl had
Yes.
pipes and just belting everything out. And not belting out like in a negative sense of just being loud. I'm talking
Right.
about like hitting every note. And it was
Thousand
just a lot of
percent.
fun.
Yeah, yeah, those four, oh my God. And we were even talking when the show officially opened, how exhausted they were after each performance, because it is, as you saw, it's the four girls on stage the entire performance. And they each have, four or five mega ballads or mega songs in the show that, pushes them. And so, yeah, it was not a show they could take a break in at any point along the run. And I think audiences really love that aspect too, because one of the things we've been trying to re-educate Orange County audiences is that our venue, which for many years was known as kind of a, grandma, grandpa sees a little child on stage and, all is happy. We're really trying to push this as a professional quality venue. And I think there's still a lot of educational aspect to that process. But I think people who have been coming. In fact, I talked to someone yesterday about tickets for James and Giant Peach. And said, how'd you hear about the show? And he goes, oh, and he listed off our last six shows. I came to this, and has become a supporter of ours, and even started seeing our shows at La Mirada. So we really are recognizing a lot of faces who are coming back show after show after show, and that's really what's going to allow us to not only survive but thrive moving forward.
Well, that's fantastic, especially with that partnership. And you guys are on, you're a border town. So you're on the border of LA and Orange County, and you're teetering onto Riverside County, because Corona's not that far away from you. Uh,
Sure.
when you are in this tri-county area, which sounds like a very East Coast thing to say, but literally it is
Right.
the tri-county area, you know, how great is it to be able to pull from all sides? Because La Mirada isn't that far from Buena Park, which is right down the street from Knott's Berry Farm. You guys are just up the road
Right.
from Disneyland and from, Cal State Fullerton and so on. So, the community is all right there to be accessed.
Right, absolutely. No, La Mirada, we've been there since 2001, is LA County, and then La Habra is Orange County. So I love from both counties, and the both theaters are. But it's been great to be able to, have so many cities, pretty big cities that are around us. So and they have theaters in their community. I think it's wonderful to be in two different communities that have such a strong support for their theaters in their backyard. I mean, La Mirada is a beautiful 1,300 seat theater, and we fill that theater up for our shows. And it's so nice to have a city understanding how important the arts is for their communities. And so when La Habra, put out the RFP process for this theater, we definitely wanted to be a part of that, because we knew that we could bring our experience from a larger theater into this smaller space and really turn this venue around to a high quality venue. And so people from the cities you mentioned, who a lot of them hadn't heard of La Habra or even knew there was a theater in La Habra, were really taking a chance or a risk, if you will, by saying, well, I never heard of this place, but let me come see it. And they all fall in love the second they walk in and see the renovated building that we've done here. They fall in love with it as soon as they walk in, and they love hearing the history of it. And then they start looking at our shows and saying, you know what, we'll make that drive. And I've got patrons that come from over 45 minutes away for our performances. And I love talking to them, because it's like, if you're going to seek us out and make that kind of a drive, then I feel more pressure to make sure we're delivering at that point.
Right. Well, speaking of La Mirada, real quick, you just did in February the Diary of Anne Frank over there.
Yes. Yes.
It's a very heavy play, but one that still affects people to this day,
Right.
85 years later, based on the actual Diary of Anne Frank.
Right.
When you get the reaction of being a smaller theater house in La Habra and being able to have that connection with La Mirada, which is only about 15 minutes away, and pull people in to a 1,300 seater, Does that almost make it more pressure for you to be able to fill Phantom, even though it's, a tenth of the size of La Mirada?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've been at Nederlander for so long, and we've been so lucky to establish such a reputation for that teen demographic, the teen audience demographic, that it's almost surprising if we don't sell that theater out. And so, yeah, there's a weird kind of pressure here because everything is much more intimate in La Habra. Everything's got to be built to a level where, at least at La Mirada, if you're far back, there can be an imperfection on the set that a light will cover. Not that you rely on that, but there's a element of truth to theater. Any national touring set, if you walk up to it, you're going to see so many nicks and things on these things. But from a distance, it all becomes this giant picture. When you're in La Habra and every seat is 20 feet from the stage, there's a lot more attention to those finer details you have to take care of. So there are different pressures to both venues, I feel like, and but I really have loved being La Habra and getting to expand the type of shows we do. In La Mirada, our season there is very specifically the theater for a teen audience series, which means we're finding shows that are based on books, history, or like our next show in April about self-image and eating disorders, things that really are going to target that demographic. In La Habra, I can do shows like Marvelous Wonderettes, like Little Shop of Horrors, all of these shows I couldn't do all these years. And that has just been, to me, just the biggest artistic eye-opening, that we can do shows that were never on, that we were never able to do because of, what we do at La Mirada, because they had their own Broadway series, McCoy Rigby Entertainment. They do all those big shows and they do them very well. But so I'm thrilled to be able to do some stuff over here and get to expand our horizon in that sense.
Right. I had just interviewed Lizzie from the Larking House, which isn't too far from you guys,
Yeah,
different demographic than you guys yourselves, and we had discussed that we lost the wayward artist,
right,
and they filled a specific demographic as well.
right.
When we do end up losing one theater, what happens with the other theaters in the area? Does it become a consensus of each one of us pick up a portion of the slack that's missing, or does everyone still hyper focus on their own ideology and their own identity while hoping someone will come fill the void of, say, Wayward?
Yeah, I think if a group really finds their mission and what they're good at, I would hate to have a knee jerk reaction to say we have to go after what they were doing. You know what I mean? Because I've seen a couple shows of Wayward and they do them very well. We even had one of the directors do a show with us. They directed Steel Magnolias for us, and I think there's such a I love that every theater can kind of sort of have their own niche and their own thing that they target. And so, I know for me personally, yeah, I would probably keep sticking with what I do, but hoping that those patrons who are looking for a new theater home would give us a chance and like what we do. But also, the city of La Habra just renewed us until 2031. And knowing that does allow me to sort of look at, okay, what are other ways we can expand our season? Because I don't want to do a show of just all the classics. I don't want to do a season of all the, but there has to be a balance. Those classics are, probably going to sell out a little more than a newer work, and I want to get to the point where I can do a newer work and not fear a collapse of our business because we don't sell every ticket at that point. And so it definitely is that balancing act here for sure.
Right. I'm going to say 60/30. I know that's only 90%, but the other 10% will focus on the youth and the programs and everything else. But let's say 60% new stuff, 30% classics, 10% focusing on bringing up the younger generation.
Right. Yeah. And between both our theaters, I love we have shows for kids, shows for teens, shows for adults. We rent our theater out. So I mean, we really, there's not anybody who can't look at our season between both theaters and find something that will appeal to them.
Well, let's touch upon James and the Giant Peach right now.
Yeah.
Roald Dahl classic novel that was turned into an animated feature by Steven Spielberg, and also the live performance that you guys are doing. Obviously based on the stage adaptation that's been around for a while.
Right.
What is your adaptation going to be like? I know we already have the Saturday matinee shows for the 8th and the 15th completely sold out. So,
Correct.
people with the younger kids are obviously coming during the day because they don't want the little one to stay up till 10 o'clock at night once the second show.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. This one, so we're doing the TYA version of the 2 hour musical that's out there. And this allows us to have a 1 hour show that appeals to those younger audiences, appeals to the field trip crowds. But man, when you watch it, I just watched the 9:30 performance today. the energy these actors put out there, they're walking off stage feeling like it's a 2 hour show. It is a nonstop song after song. The music was written by the same people who wrote, which was announced today, Greatest Showman is going to be a musical. Same writers of music for that show wrote this one. And the songs are fantastic. And I think far better than anybody would expect from a children's show. And they wrote a full blown musical geared towards little children, which is not, sometimes you go, yeah, of course, there's like Lion King, Frozen, but when you look back, those were almost 3 hours long. So are those really for 5 year olds?
Let's be
It's
honest,
just, I
they're for
mean,
Disney adults.
yeah,
let's
exactly,
let's be honest.
exactly, yeah, exactly. So that's why for me it was like, yeah, we could do the 2 hour version, but I really want those kids to come in and not start to feel like, okay, I want to go home halfway through. So by doing the 1 hour version, the kids can really feel like they're into it from beginning to end at that point. And this 9:30 crowd, I mean, they were into it and they rushed the actors afterwards, and for autographs and photos, which to me is such a huge appeal to not only the field trip shows, but we do the meet and greet for all of our family shows. So even for public shows, the actors come out and you see the kids just like their eyes light up because they've been watching something magical for the last hour. And the fact they go up there and shake a hand or just touch the costume or something like that, I think is a real appeal to our family shows here. And I think the parents that bring their kids know that's a welcome addition to what we do.
What I enjoy about the setup of your theater, you have this nice patio area outside that we can hang out. And then when we come in, we feel like we're in a playhouse, but your lobby almost feels like a backstage as well.
Right.
I mentioned Disney adults, so let's talk about Disney. And I'm not ragging on Disney because I'm going to be at Disney Animation this week. Um, what gave Disney that special feel was when Walt would do The Wonderful World of Disney, and you can watch the old episodes and clips, whether on YouTube or on Disney Plus. Not a plug,
Sure.
but obviously, figure it out. And he'd
I remember
reveal
those.
just enough behind the curtain that you felt like you were a part of it. And when we enter your lobby, you
Yep.
have just enough of the curtain pulled that we feel like we're almost a part of the show. And I think that's going to also be really appealing to people that enjoy theater, first time theater goers, and kids of all ages, really.
Yeah, I agree, and I love that you noticed that because when we took over the theater, the building was in rough shape. It was COVID closure. The previous company had gone out of business. So this building sat for years, and we literally, and people think I'm lying when I say this, but I am not. We spent 6 months renovating this building. 7 days a week, someone was here working on something. There's not an inch of this building that did not get touched up or redone in some way. Because when you walked in previously, you felt like you were at grandma's house, which nothing wrong with grandma's house. I miss my grandma's house.
Right.
But we wanted you to walk in and feel something when you came in these doors. And so we took a lot of care to make that happen. And we just added one new element since you've been here. We've actually added a community art wall in our theater. And this will change every month in our theater. We're going to work with different groups and sort of find art from different corners of La Habra and Orange County and display them in our theater. So artists can have their work displayed now in our space, and we can get to learn more about local artists here in the city and surrounding cities. And we're hoping to expand that as we go. But we have the La Habra Art Association right now. Their members have art in our theater, and we actually have a ribbon cutting for that on Friday to officially open it. But it's just one more element of our space that we really want to make sure that we are part of the art world in whatever format. And so I'm thrilled it came out so great. Our team did a great job putting it together. But that's just one more element we added this past week.
Right. And I'm going to add to this also for people like me that love ample parking. So Shin Shin at the Chance
Yes.
Theater knows I joke about this all the time. Jeff from Cerrito Center for the Performing Arts knows I joke about this all the time. Ample parking is a big deal to me. I hate driving around the block 8 times trying to find a spot. You guys have your own little parking section right in
Right.
front, and you're allowed to use the parking lot right across the street. So there is plenty of parking when you come to Phantom.
Yeah, plenty of free parking, no parking structures, no, go to LA, you're paying, 20, $30 to park for 2 hours. So yes, we were lucky about that. The city had that already part of the structure. And, we think it is a perk. It's a huge perk. Cause I have friends in LA who do shows and you got to get there an hour early to find street parking. And there's times I'm like, I just don't think I'm going to go because I don't want to deal with that, so.
Right. I got lucky one time. So an acquaintance of mine has a short film. She invited me out to see it. I was already there, so I was like, "All right, cool. I'm down the street. Another half hour isn't gonna kill me. Spend in LA." I thought I found perfect street parking, and guess what? It activated the permits at 6 o'clock, and I got there at 5:45. So I
Of
was like,
course.
"Really?"
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the joys of LA, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
And it was right around the corner, like it was in 50 feet of walking to the front door. I was like,
Of course. Yeah.
"That's why."
That's too funny.
But we're not going to find that at Phantom. We're actually going to
No.
find parking. And when you
So
park 50 feet away, you're literally only walking 50 feet away.
exactly. Absolutely huge perk, without a doubt.
Uh, Take us into Be More Cool, because I'm not familiar with this. Is this an original? Is this a newer show? The first I heard of it was when you guys decided to put it on.
Yeah, it is in the language of the theater world. It's a new show still, but it's over 10 years old if I remember in the year correctly. But it really built a new life and dedication during COVID online. But I mean, if you look at YouTube clips, the closing performance on Broadway, there's someone has a recording on there, and the crowd is just going insane. There's just something about the show that speaks to that younger demographic that gets them excited. Not in the same way Hamilton did, because obviously everyone knows Hamilton. Be More Chill is not one that the average person just on the street is going to have heard of. And it's a little raunchy too. It's kind of like Grease. Everyone sings Grease, but when you actually look at the lyrics of Grease, Grease is a pretty raunchy show
Right.
that a lot of people don't realize. But there's just something about the energy and the vibe that it doesn't bother you. So we just had our first read through and sing along last night, and this cast is absolutely, I mean, just blew me away. And we're putting it up in 4 weeks, which is not a lot of time. And we're doing a live band, which we have not done yet here in the theater. But the music in this show is just such a rock vibe that I just didn't think recordings could create that environment. So we're going to do a 6-piece live band on stage to really rock this place. And it's something that young people, I feel like the Wonderettes audience, it's not the show for them without a doubt. Because it definitely is about high school kids, and but it's definitely one that the music is fantastic, and a lot of what's what I'm looking for. A lot of odes to different musical theater styles, that 80s, 90s vibe at times. And we're gonna have people coming from far away from this show because that younger demographic is obsessed with this show, and I'm so thrilled that we're doing it because not a lot of venues out here have done it yet.
Well, I will leave you hanging on one thing. Grease is one of my least favorite shows because
Okay,
the movie terrified me as a child. That I was just like, movie musicals have always terrified me. Like someone just random, like unless they're from like India or the Middle East, where the set is already kind of theatrical, or even classic
right,
Hollywood
right.
musicals. But when they decided in the '70s to go, we're going to make it as realistic as possible, those movie
Yeah,
musicals
yeah.
all terrify me. And I was like,
I can totally understand that. Yeah,
yeah.
that's hilarious. But yeah, people always say people who don't like musical, I just don't understand them standing there and breaking out into song. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Agreed.
I came from the world of combat sports, wrestling, judo, all that stuff. So
Sure, sure.
when I was learning to become a voice actor, I went on a cruise, and everybody on that cruise was a musical theater kid. And I'm the one that was like the jock with the 3.7 GPA, because
Yeah,
my dad would have killed me with a low GPA. And I'm sitting there, and then someone would say a certain line, and then the entire table breaks out into song. And I'm just sitting there with my head down, going, I have no idea what is going on here.
yeah.
And
That's
someone's
hilarious.
like, "This is your hell, isn't it?" I was like, "Now I know what you guys feel like when I start talking about either basketball or football or wrestling or mixed martial arts or whatever. I get the
Right.
same blank stare that you do.
Right.
I'm
Yeah, exactly.
right. Like I have an appreciation for the theater. I really do enjoy plays. Musicals, I'm getting used to on stage. Movie musicals, we're gonna kind of keep our distance on that one.
That's funny. I totally understand that. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. But like what you guys did with the Wonderettes was incredible because it's a blend of a concert and a musical. It's not just, like Shrek. I'm gonna pick on Shrek.
Sure.
I love the original movie. The first three films were great. Four was kind of pushing it. Five, I'm kind of scared to see.
Sure,
But
sure.
when we got to the musical itself, it almost felt like an opera because there wasn't enough dialogue. It just went
Wow.
song, 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 song.
Got
But
it.
I'm
Yeah.
like, give me a little more dialogue with what's going on.
Right, right. No, I can see that. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, I can see that. Yeah, yeah, that's too funny.
Yeah. How do you pick up shows, let's say like Shrek, that are very much singing all the way through versus finding the balance of dialogue and song
How do I find them person as an audience member?
as an audience member? Like if you're going to go to
Yeah,
one, do you want one that's going to be more like 95% song with 5% dialogue, 70-30 split, a fair
right.
balance? Like, what are you looking for in that regard?
Well, for me, however the story just pulls me in. So there's certain shows that have a weak book but great music. Spring Awakening is a perfect example of that one. The show bores me to tears, but I will blast that soundtrack at full level and love every single song. But when I watch it live, and I've seen the national tour twice, I've seen a great regional production, and it just did nothing for me. Then you have a show like Jesus Christ Superstar, which is a rock opera, no dialogue, and I will watch that one on repeat, over and over again. So for me, just whatever version of a show that does that best style of storytelling, then I can go with either version. But I certainly have my favorites and my dislikes on both ends of that spectrum, and for me, I would say doesn't factor into how I pick my shows here. So I'm definitely looking for ones that I feel like can tell a story in whatever method, it does best at that point.
Right. It's not the Steve show. It's something that we want to bring the people in.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So
I've been in contact with Zoe, who's on staff with you guys over there.
yes, our general
She's been
manager.
great.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, when you work with somebody like Zoe and you create the team that you have over at Phantom Projects,
Yeah,
how do you decide on like when you guys did this relaunch, you took over the space just in time for the world to shut down.
right.
You
Yeah.
know, how do you create a team that the two of you gel together? Obviously, you're going to butt heads here and there, but I mean, you're going to create this cohesive unit that's going to focus on what to bring in. What do you look for in a team member if, say you guys have a job opening in a year from now and you want to bring someone in?
Somebody who really appreciates our business and the craft of our business. Zoe started off part time working on just individual shows and then became part time and then became full time if we realized we can't do it without her because she's just so fantastic at what she does. But she does everything. She's our box office. She's our costume rental head. She's our community events to go out to. I mean, she has her hands in everything because we're just small enough where we need two people to do 10 jobs, but busy enough we really could have 10 people working and keep them all busy. But when your theater is only 132 seats, the math just isn't going to math at that point, But we're looking for someone who understands and gets excited about the inconsistent inconsistency of our days, I guess, every day is different and you have to wear many hats and she enjoys that. And so, that's what we're looking for. Someone who enjoys, putting on a different hat every day and kind of going from there. So
Let's be honest, that's a little more fun than the standard 9 to 5. Although random Tuesdays, I'll sit there and I was like, man, a 9 to 5 would be great right now. But I know in a week I'd
right.
be bored out of my mind.
Exactly. Exactly. No, that's what keeps everyone going here, I feel like, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So
The reaction has been great. People are excited for you. Are you also planning on expanding out and doing concert series? Like, hey, you know what? We have a 2 week lull in between these productions. Let's do 2 Fridays where we bring in a singer or a performer or something and do, say, like a jazz night or, a tribute show or whatever. Do you guys ever plan on doing something like that?
yeah, we actually already have. We've had Britain's Finest, one of the country's best Beatles bands, here twice. That we just announced yesterday. We're having them back in September for a weekend of shows. We've done a Selena tribute concert here, which sold out both performances. And I'm always in conversation with different promoters and groups to see where we can fit them in. And we do have some we're booking in for starting in the fall into 2026 as I kind of lay out the rest of our calendar. But concerts do very well here because of how intimate the space is. When you get a band like the Britain's Finest, they are the Beatles as far as I'm concerned. The fact that you can see the Beatles and only be 12 rows back, and do something that, real Beatles fans never got to do because they play these huge spaces. People love the concerts here and they love playing here because how intimate the space is. Because they literally, when they were here last time, they had just come back from Liverpool, England, doing shows over there, and then came to La Habra, and they want to come back here, and this is their third time they'll be here in September, and the groups have really enjoyed our space because of the intimacy it allows. So.
Well, that's fantastic, man. I'm thrilled to hear stuff like that. With tribute shows like that, I kind of, this is my personal preference. I prefer that it's a band that's no longer playing, because if they're
Well,
still
I
touring,
agree.
it's
Yeah,
kind of hard to like, oh, let's go see. And I've seen a Metallica tribute band that was absolutely phenomenal.
yeah,
And it's like, well, can we go see Metallica or the tribute band? Obviously, the tribute band's not
exactly.
going to charge me $600 for a ticket, but
Right.
the
Yeah,
Beatles
I'm
we're never
totally
going
the
to get to
same way.
see. So.
Exactly. I'm right there with you on that 1,000%. Yeah, yeah.
Like
So
if I have the option of seeing Kiss or Mini Kiss is the tribute band I'm gonna go want to see, because I've
right.
seen Kiss a handful of times, but I've never seen
Ex
Mini Kiss, and that's a great act. And then
exactly.
my friend's husband is in Kissed Alive, which is a great Kiss tribute band. So if you get a chance to see them, please by all means do so.
I'll check them
Uh,
out. Yeah.
yeah, plug for Vinny J and all of them at Kissed Alive. But it's just fun when it's like the Beatles again, because George and John are gone. An Elvis tribute's kind of cool. Now a Michael Jackson one,
Right.
because obviously Michael's gone. So, that sort of thing,
Yeah. 1,000% agree with you on that one. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Um,
So
you know,
yeah.
as things progress over at Phantom Projects, first of all, by the way, how did you guys come up with the name? That's something I've always been curious about.
So I started the company when I was 17. So I was a teenager at the time. And, it was one of those things where just the idea of a phantom just sounded so mysterious and different. And it was kind of based on a rumor in high school shows working on. We would overnight put our promotional stuff to the high school, and next day people would come in and say, "What was the Phantom?" And that just kind of stuck at that point. And it became Phantom Projects. That was to do theater, TV, film, and just have a bunch of projects under our name. But at those early years, nobody knew what a Phantom Project was. We added theater to it to really kind of analyze that. But I had no idea, obviously, later how much people would love the name, because that's one of the comments I get all the time, that it's such a different name, than most groups have. And I still hear it as like I almost tell myself, if I were to start this business as an adult, would I have gone with that name? And I probably wouldn't have. So I'm kind of thankful that that youth aspect is what brought that along. And then now expanding to the Phantom Product Theater at La Habra Depot to establish the location. But yeah, it's I kind of gone in cycles, partly regretting it. But whenever I hear people say, "Oh, the name just really stands out to me," then I really am thankful of that aspect of it. So
Which is
yeah,
hilarious, because Brewery X has a similar story to that, since they're not too far from you guys.
yeah. I've been there, sure.
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
they put it down as Brewery X because they didn't have a name. So, like, X is the
that's
unknown
funny.
variable in math, or X marks the spot, in treasure hunting. And then everything they
That's
came up with afterwards wasn't as cool as Brewery X. So the name just stuck.
I love it, and people remember that name. They remember, that's for sure. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I hate to do this. I've got 150 kids I hear at the front door right now for our 12:30 performance, and I've got to get seated.
Listen,
So I'm so
we
sorry. I
got to take
apologize
care
for
of the
that, but
kids. Let us know where
yeah,
we can find Phantom Projects Theater Group, and where, James and the Giant Peach, and, Be More Cool and all that stuff. And we'll link everybody to everything. And I will see you next week.
I love it. Looking forward to it. And thanks. This is great. It's a lot of fun. I appreciate this,
I
and
wish we had
I
more time,
appreciate
but
your
we got to
support.
take care of the kids.
I know. I'm so sorry. That's my fault. I didn't allow enough time. I didn't. It just flew by so fast too. So which is great. I love that. But let's do it again at some point, and I look forward to seeing you at Peach. And yeah, check us out at thephantomprojectstheater.com.
All right, we'll do it for Suzical, and then we'll work on doing a cross promotion with Brewery X, and the way the names both came
Yeah,
about.
I love it. Yes, awesome. All right, thanks so much. Great to see you, and I'll see you next week.